Welcome to our second chat time. Today I'm excited to introduce Ilan Srulovicz. Ilan is the founder and CEO of Egard Watch Company. I've had the pleasure actually of being involved in the launch of this brand, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but let's get right into it.
Okay.
Welcome. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you finally.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
So, Egard.
Yes.
It's a company that you started actually with, it was an emotional connection with your father. This was a company that you really didn't foresee. It was something that you fell into almost.
Yeah, essentially about 5 years ago, I was looking to get my father a birthday present.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought the nicest present I could get him was a watch. I always loved watches. He always liked watches. And I started looking around for a watch that I thought would be nice for him.
Yeah.
And it was really hard to find something that I connected with, that was in a price point that was reasonable, that I thought was really unique. That
Really?
offered
From all the brands that are out there? You
all the
couldn't find a
brands,
watch
I
for your
couldn't
father?
find the one that
You're
was
kidding.
right. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. So
Not a good testament to all the brands that are making watches in Switzerland and China. I mean,
well, it has nothing. I think that watches are very personal. So yeah. So for me, it was a very personal thing. I was looking for something that really resonated with me and that I thought would be right. It's a tribute for him. So
what were you looking for? What was it that
the key things I was looking for were right off the bat something I connected with emotionally. Like I look at the
Emotionally.
watch and it has some kind of.
So it had to have your
value.
father's personality almost built into it. That's what
Yeah.
you were looking for. That's where you could find that.
A reflection of
A
something.
reflection
him.
of what his values were.
Yeah, and then it had to be priced in an area that was I could afford at the time,
Right.
and it had to be
You were an actor at the time.
yes.
At the time, okay.
And it had to be also unique. I wanted something that there were certain things that I just liked on certain timepieces. I always liked a kind of architectural look. I like dials that
Right.
had depth.
Right. 3 dimensions.
Yes, and I liked unique cases, and I felt like there was a certain amount of monotony in the watch industry where people were just using something that came
A lot of
off-
repetition.
A lot of repetition. Someone did
Yeah.
something nice, and
Yeah.
I admit that there's a lot of nice things that have come out.
Right.
And then you just see the industry take it
Yeah.
and roll with it, and
Yeah.
I was like,
And destroy it at the
and destroy it or overdo it, or
overdo it.
and that's how every business works. So I understand it. But for me, based on how important the reason for me getting it was, and I think for a lot of people, they buy watches for that reason. I decided to try and make one. I had a background also in pre-visualization, which they used to make a lot of movies, like Planet of the Apes. So I worked on
Okay.
a studio that did Planet of the Apes.
So
all the
software
Marvel
that
movies.
you know how to.
Yeah, 3D software.
3D software that you're good at.
Yeah.
And that helps you develop the watch.
I had a
eventually
big
the
background in
company.
it. Yeah, we developed. We used it in architecture. We used it for film.
Right.
Military contracts. We'll do simulations. So you could do anything in the software, and I used it to build a watch.
Right.
Initially, it was just kind of a project. I wanted to see if I could design something nice.
Right.
I didn't think I was actually going to build it. But then, as it started going, I started posting pictures on forums and getting feedback.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? Let me source out some movements.
Right.
Let me build a watch and make it, and I did.
At this point, it's still his birthday, or how did that?
It was a year later now. It was for the next one. So it took a year. The
He's
whole
waiting
process
at this
took a year.
point for his gift.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's worth it because
Right.
in the end, he gets it,
He
and
gets it.
he loved it. And we put it on a forum.
Right.
And he was showing it to friends and stuff like that. And everyone said, wow, where'd you get this watch? It's so nice. And even the name of the company, Egard, in French, is in consideration of, in consideration of my father, the company's made.
So the name Egard means in consideration to or of in
Yeah,
French?
yeah.
Aha. Okay.
And
So it's named purely from that perspective.
Yeah.
You're making the watch for your father.
yep,
Okay. So now he's wearing the watch. Name is on the watch now,
yep.
and you're
And
getting
that was
and
the
you're
first
getting
watch I
feedback.
made.
And you're
Getting feedback from his friends, and then I go back on the forum that I posted the designs on, and there were people asking to buy it. They just really liked it.
Amazing.
And so we decided to make a small number initially, and
Right.
that batch went well.
Right.
And then we went from there, and that's how the brand came into realization or being, yeah.
So, full disclosure, that's kind of where I came in more or
Yeah,
less.
right about then.
At that time,
Yeah.
you had hired me to consult for you for the company. And,
Yeah.
and it was a fun project. I was with you for about a year and a half, I think.
Yep.
But we did a interesting promotion in Indiegogo. That's how we launched.
Really launched the company, to the
there.
public. Before that, we had never done any advertising, only on forums.
Right.
I wasn't trying to get the watches into people's hands, really. I was making small numbers and seeing how it did on forums, and then that was the first real kind of launch for the company.
So a lot of people ask me how did Shatner, the launch involved William Shatner in the Passages watches, and people can see that on YouTube and elsewhere, the interaction between us and Shatner and how we built the watch. But a lot of people want to know, how did that come about?
Okay, well, a good friend of mine, Casper Van Dien, he's from Starship Troopers, very good-looking guy.
Yeah.
I thought he was the perfect face for the company.
Right.
So I had asked him to be a brand ambassador and model the watches, and he came on board. He was really happy to do it. He's wonderful, and he started, modeling the watches and posting on Twitter. And William Shatner saw on his Twitter the watch.
Cool.
And he thought it was a really nice watch, so he looked up he had tweeted back something. I don't remember what it was, but it was some kind of tweet, like he said congratulations to Casper.
He knew Casper.
He had followed him on Twitter. Maybe they had known each other from conventions.
Yeah, a couple of
and stuff
actors, they can communicate easily, yeah.
And then so he had asked to contact the company, and he had read up about the story, and he thought that it was a really beautiful story. Right. So we met with him, and the idea came up that for him personally at this point in his life, he was looking to do something unique for his family. And that based on the message of the company, based on the fact that I'm making unique watches, everything he was looking for in a watch is what I was looking for when I wanted to design one for my father. So that obviously connected with it.
If I may interject, it was an emotional response, just like you had with your father. And the point is here, this whole thing is emotional. Yes. It means the value has to resonate with an emotional value, and that's what resonated with Shatner. He felt that I was there, so I'll just interject a little bit. He felt that life is passages of moments. Yes. And the moments are getting less and less as you age, and he felt he wanted to have some kind of posterity to this time of his, as opposed to what he's been doing in the past with acting. He wanted something more meaningful. Yeah, that he can hand down to his family. It's a physical thing. Exactly. And that's really what resonated with him. That's really was the emotional aspect that brought him around and got him to want to be involved. Yeah, it's not a celebrity endorsement like other companies do. Exactly. It was a real collaboration. That's the point I'm trying to bring. Oh no, and that's the honest truth. Like some people, no matter what, when a celebrity comes on board to a company, we're a small company. You know what I mean? We're very. I don't believe in making 1 million watches. That's not my goal. My goal is to make watches for people who really want them. Right. And so he came on board because he connected to that, not because it was meaningful to him. And it's meaningful, and we make meaningful watches. So that's really the creed of the company. It has to be meaningful. Yeah, people ask me, hey, what kind of consumer is the right consumer for you? Right. And I say someone who sees something that represents them in the watch. It's not I'm not looking for a certain, someone with a certain wealth amount, or all those things don't matter to me. What matters to me is that you see the watch, and it resonates with you, it reflects something in you, and you want to wear it like it's an art piece on your wrist that reflects. But the fact that the creed of the company is based has that value of emotionality and connection on the human level, that is part of the reason they want to get involved with the Egard too. Of course, a lot of that's William Shatner was. That's part of the branding of the Egard. Yeah, that is the overall. I mean, that's what the company was founded on. Right. That's what William Shatner connected to. That's what I think a lot of people connect to. Right. We love to do things for Father's Day because then we know that it's about that. So there's 6 times of the year I get really excited because I know that's the reason people are buying the watch. Right. When we do a giveaway, sometimes we have people contact us or whatever it is, and we do, charitable events or whatever it is. We try and make it so that it goes to like a father or a son or a family member, so that the gift is then given to someone. Right. In other words, if you win it or however it's working, you get it to give to someone. Right. So we're giving it to you to give to someone else. Well, if you analyze the father-son relationship, it's a very powerful one. I can even argue it's the most powerful one in the world, because if you take it to another level, it's really a relationship between man and his creator, the father. Yeah. Right? So it mirrors that. It does, yeah. And that's the most powerful relationship that we all have in this world, is us with our creator. And therefore, resonating down, it's fascinating, and it resonates with people. Yeah, so definitely. Yeah, I love that. Tell me a little bit about other watches that you designed that are your favorites. One of my favorites is the Fortitude. It's got a similar case to this one, to the Passages case.
except it has a lot of complications on the dial. So it has the date. So it's got a lot of cool functions. The dial's very multi-textured.
Right.
So
Now you like that multi. I mean, I see that part of your values of design and aesthetics is that three-dimensionality.
I always try and layer a dial. I don't like flat dials.
Right.
There's something about depth in a watch where you can see different layers that's just appealing to me. It kind of feels like you're building a little house inside the watch.
Well, it's kind of nice because you've got the crystal, and then you've got space.
Yeah.
And you've got an opportunity with depth.
Take advantage of it.
So why not do that?
Yeah,
and
why does something have to be
more
flat when you can turn it and then see that it actually has a little bit of depth?
And then you see that more and more now,
You see it in actually higher end brands, and now, one of the things I was looking for in a watch when I made one for my dad was that depth. I couldn't find it in really nice and well done and affordable brands.
Right.
So that was one of the things that I've always stuck with, especially coming from the background I had with the pre-visualization. Right. So there's the Fortitude that has a nice kind of multi-textural feel. Then there's one that has a really nice kind of layered dial is the Shade.
Mm-hmm. Shade, I love the Shade. I have one of those.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's based on the original. It's understated, it's classy.
Very classy watch.
And
it's done well, even though it's kind of one of the more expensive pieces.
Yeah, it's actually the Shade is the one that's out now is not. We have two versions of the Shade.
The original
one is gone. The original one is sold out. Yeah. Right. Now we have
it's the one I'm wearing.
Yeah, we have the quartz one out now.
Right.
And maybe one day we'll make a mechanical one again.
Yeah.
Just because that's one I'd like to keep going. Yeah.
Right.
But they both have very, very similar looks, the quartz and the mechanical.
Right.
They both have that real architectural feel to them.
Yeah, the aesthetics are there regardless, right? It's just the movement's different.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about branding, distribution. There's a couple of things that I want to touch on. First of all, you're still quite young. You've done this in a couple of years in between an acting career. Yeah. It's quite dynamic. Very good, very well done. Congratulations.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
But you're also doing it at a time when it's a transition of sorts in the watch industry. You're not in brick and mortar stores necessarily. A lot of brick and mortar stores are not necessarily expanding. They're not. A lot of them are closing. In our watch business as well, especially, a lot of it is going to the internet.
Yep.
So it's a lot more difficult to brand something when it's not in a physical location.
It's different to brand something. It's different to build people's trust with something they're not holding in their hand.
Right.
That's the biggest challenge.
Right.
But I wouldn't necessarily say it's worse.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say it's just a different opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So social media is a great way to present people kind of a lifestyle and a feel, and I can get it out to mass amounts of people to see and to understand if they like it or not. So it's just a different approach. I think there's a lot of benefits to brick and mortar, but there's also a lot of benefits to being able to get your brand out there on social media and really get a message across. So as long as I'm trying to make a brand, like I said earlier, I'm not trying to mass produce a million timepieces. I'm trying to make something that resonates with people.
Right.
Social media really gives me that opportunity.
Right.
I can make my own videos that reflect how I view the brand. I can get other people. The great thing is that we send out watches, or we get honest reviews. We have people buy the watch and they love it and they put a review online.
Right.
That's more valuable
than
anything.
Valuable. That's very valuable. You couldn't get that.
No, and they genuinely love it.
So you've got.
And whatever gripes they may have, like the small ones, are, I think, often opinionated, and it's nice for me to get that feedback.
Right.
Because then I get. I would have loved to see a version, in gunmetal, which is why we started making gunmetal watches. So we take that feedback that we get and we grow.
So that's the advantages that you never had in the past in the way that traditional watch companies were branding. They had a brick and mortar. The consumer actually interacted with a salesman of a retail store. The brand never heard these things. Mm-hmm. It never really,
and most
the information never got to the brand. Here you're directly communicating with your end consumer.
That's because I listen to them. And
but you also have the opportunity to do so because it is internet.
That's what
everybody has the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, if they take advantage of it, it's such a powerful thing.
It's very powerful.
It's not only to get it out to a lot of people, it's to get a lot of people's feedback.
Right.
And if you really care about what they're saying, the internet's incredibly powerful.
And if you do it right, the word of mouth that you can get for it is equivalent to an ad in,
Because
in Town and Country magazine.
They
whatever
become
it might
passionate
be.
about it.
Exactly.
And they want to share it with their friends, and then their friends share it with their friends. There's no set value for that. You put a video out that gets 10 million views of people who are interested in your product, not just 10 million views, but of people interested in what you're showing them.
Right.
That's more valuable than going and being in a brick and mortar store.
Exactly. So the trick is really in this particular new world that you're branding in, the trick is to know listen to your consumer and
really listen to them.
Really listen to them, interact with them basically.
Yeah.
And make sure that you keep them happy.
Yeah.
Because
and there's a benefit also that a smaller company has to a bigger company, and this is a misconception people have. They always say, "Oh, powerhouse company, powerhouse company." When people write something, it's me going and reading it. I'm the CEO of the company.
Right.
When people call up, they usually end up talking to me.
Right.
I listen to them. I directly put the feedback in, and I remember it, and I build a company on that. A big company doesn't have an infrastructure for that. It would be impossible for the CEO to get on every phone call or really get on. I go on forums. I really read. I really see what people want. I listen to people.
Right. But they have those. They all have the same tools you do.
They do.
I mean, the CEO might not pick up the phone, but he has an opportunity to get all that information.
They do, yeah.
In the past, he didn't. And
no,
that's the key.
It was impossible.
It was impossible to get that information.
Yeah.
So that's terrific from a branding perspective. That's almost nirvana, what we're talking about here. The only thing that happens is that it's a very crowded field, and there's a lot of distractions.
Well, the difference is you used to go into a brick and mortar store. What they offered is what they offered.
Yeah.
And if you liked it, you liked it.
Yeah, it was quantifiable.
Yes.
Here, the whole world's in front of your eyes.
Everyone's competing with everyone.
And the consumer is very distracted.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're very distracted.
Very distracted, yeah.
And they don't know where to get necessarily the most reliable information or the most,
trustworthy.
Trustworthy.
Right.
Which website's the best.
Right.
So there's a lot of misinformation on the internet, which is how do you come out as an honest
how do you
company?
Resonate? Yeah. So obviously doing the things that you just said, interaction, building trust, getting the feedback, communicating and responding.
I think an honest company will inevitably reflect honestly on the internet.
Yes, that's true.
I think if you're just truly an honest company and you're an honest person, or whatever
it'll come out.
it becomes more difficult as you get bigger to maintain that.
To maintain, you're right.
Because you have more people working for you, and it takes one of them to do one wrong thing for someone to go say something.
Right.
And then that goes viral.
So the other side of it, the word of mouth cuts both ways. The negative stuff is always there as well. It can destroy you.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting. This didn't exist before pre-web. Pre-internet existence.
Yeah, and consumer relations were much more subtle.
Yeah.
Now when someone starts writing me emails, sometimes there's a consumer you just can't make happy. That's the honest truth.
Right.
No matter how much
they
I
exist,
try.
they're out there. But
there are.
They're minority.
They're a minority.
They're
a big minority.
Yeah.
But that one consumer can go and attempt to ruin your company.
Right. Right.
And say they did this, they did that, they did that.
But again, if you resonate honestly and people.
Well, that motivates people to go and write 100 positive reviews.
Exactly.
It actually can be a positive thing.
So what you have is you have your own customers become your advocates.
Yes.
Which is an amazing thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you resonated honestly with them and they support you, that's the whole thing. So it's a new world. This is a wild, wild west. We're developing it. How do you juggle the two worlds? You're in the acting world. You're obviously still acting. You're actually getting better roles, bigger roles, and you're passionate about it, and you're running this company.
And I directed a movie also.
And you're directing movie. Oh, terrific!
Yeah, I directed two. One won a bunch of awards in France, and now my next one, hopefully, comes out soon also.
So talk a little bit about that.
It's all connected in the end of the day for me. I want to impact people, right? Mm-hmm. So that's my base motivation for everything. So how do I influence people? How do I impact people? How do I put myself in a position to have kind of a positive effect on those around me? So the motivation.
But even acting is something that you want to have a positive effect, that you can actually.
Hugely, that's the reason I want to do it. I think if you become successful as an actor, you can choose which projects you work on for one, which can have a positive impact.
Okay.
And you also get kind of the social ability to influence people more. You know, it's always interesting to me when someone thinks it's such a nice thing that this celebrity did that a normal person would have done, and so you get a certain amount of influence. That, you know, imagine being able to help 1,000 people, or go speak and say, you know, give a message to 10,000 people, or go online and say something that influences people, has a positive impact on them.
So part of your motivation. Has it always been part of your motivation
Since I'm a kid.
To get into acting for the purpose of influencing people positively?
Yeah, since I'm a kid, I remember
Really?
I wanted to be able to have a voice in the world.
So this is your soapbox in a way.
Yeah.
I've never heard that from an actor before.
That's why I do it. That's why I started directing. My newest film touches on certain political things that I believe in.
Right.
And it's a lot of things, you know, people can sit back and complain about what they don't like.
Mm-hmm.
Or what they do like, or what's going wrong. But if you can go out there and make a movie about it, you can influence society.
Yes, absolutely. And many movies have.
Yeah.
On the both sides of the gamut, positively and negatively, obviously.
So yeah, I make it work. I tie it all together. You know, I meet actors on set who love the watches.
Mm-hmm.
They potentially connect to the story just like William Shatner did.
Right.
Just creating more opportunities, and the more opportunities that are there, the more potential something's going to stick.
Right.
So I use as much as possible the acting to help build the watch company. And I use the watch company as much as possible to, if I can, somehow translate over into making a movie, or a good commercial, or a good video.
So these are, I mean, we're talking about, you're ambitious.
Yeah.
You've got ambitious visions. Your vision is ambitious. You're fairly young still. Where do you see yourself in 10 years from now? Where do you want?
10 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, should we say 5 years? Is that easier?
No, 5 years. I don't know.
You pick it. You tell me which
well,
one.
if I don't have a set timeline, so I have two. I kind of treat goals, I think, different than the average person.
Not
does.
necessarily to a timeline, but
no, I have timelines, but it's more that I tier my goals.
Okay.
So I think most people look at goals, and what they do is they set an unreasonable goal, and then they are setting themselves up for a feeling of failure.
You gotta have a stepping. You gotta see the stepping stones to the goal.
So I have tiered goals.
Right.
If we're looking at my watch company, in the next couple years, I want to develop some really, really unique, like you said, mono-branded pieces that use the case, look at movements and get a better sense of which movements will represent the company, watch movements. We want to stick with just mechanical movements moving this point forward. I want to develop an iconic piece that starts representing the brand. And look at, you know, the right collaborations with certain actors or icons.
So the collaborations as part of the still will continue to be part of the branding.
For me, I find that it's an important part.
And it's attainable to you because you're in the acting world.
Very attainable, and it's something. I only go after people who connect with the brand. So
Right.
it would never be a business deal.
Right.
It would be work in communication. There's something that they genuinely like about it, and then out of that, naturally, kind of organically, it turns into a watch.
Can you reveal a collaboration that's coming up, or
I
do you want to, or
can't
not
reveal
yet?
it just yet.
Yeah.
Until everything is 100% finalized. But we have one in the works who's someone I grew up watching, who I'm a fan of. So I think and they're a huge watch fanatic. So that's.
And you're excited about this one, obviously. As
Yes,
you were
I just
with
don't want to
William
say
Shatner.
anything until it's fully.
But
moving forward.
we should say that there is something coming up in the near future that's going to be very exciting for the brand.
Yes,
and for
there should be.
for the consumers who are interested in the brand and who own the brand.
Yes.
Wonderful.
And I think there'll be even more. So that's my 1 to 2 year goal. Would be
Okay.
a strong collaboration, really mono-branding the company, focusing more on the lifestyle behind the brand and getting that message out.
Right.
And building an audience that really appreciates the brand. I really want to start building some brand loyalty and people really appreciating the watches and enjoying them. So that's for that. For acting, you know, on a very basic level, it would just be continuing how it's going right now.
It's going well?
It's going well, and I think this year will be better than last year. So I just want to have some small improvements. So if I'm a recurring character this year, next year I want to be, maybe a more relevant recurring character, build that role up, or I want to be on a few more big movies. I've done a couple big movies this year, maybe bigger, more relevant roles in those movies, and slowly work my way into either being a series regular, which is a main actor on a TV show, and on a show that I think has value, or a movie.
Well, give me. Is there an actor out there who's done it right that you would love to emulate his career?
There's a lot of actors
Maybe
I like
two-
out there
two or three?
for different reasons. I like different actors. You know, I really a lot of people bash Leonardo DiCaprio. I like Leonardo DiCaprio, but there's like actors that I like that I don't see myself being like Gary Oldman. I think there's a lot of really good character actors. So
And you're a character actor.
I don't know. I'm somewhere in between. I get a lot of character actor roles because I can be like a chameleon. And I actually enjoy those. I like I like parts where you would see a guy and you would think he's not going to be likable.
Right.
He's the bad person.
Right.
And then you find the honesty in them, and then
Right.
people see that and they go, wow, it's not about him being bad. I actually see something in myself in that person.
Right. Right.
It kind of ties into the whole thing with the watch. Like you want people to relate to it.
Right.
So I don't believe that there's black and white characters. I believe that there's characters
They're
who
human.
do bad things, but they're human.
Right.
And then finding that is the fun part about acting,
Right.
and getting people to relate to it, no matter how bad the character is. So from an acting perspective, that's something that I really connect to. And directing, the goal there is I really want to see how this past film I did does.
Mm-hmm. The ones you directed.
This one that I'm finishing up now.
Oh, you're
I finished
finishing
directing
up.
it. I'm in
Direct-
editing
okay.
now, and we're just doing some.
When's
fun
that
stuff.
gonna launch, release?
In the festival circuit in a.
Well, where, if
few
somebody
months.
wanted to see, where, I mean, you can just Google you and YouTube. You've got some of
They
the
should
ones
be
you
able
can
to find
some of
well,
the stuff that you've done.
for acting, definitely, yeah.
What about the directing aspect?
The directing one? We just put it on IndieFlix and some other places. So
Okay.
it's we're just slowly getting it out there. And then this new one, I can't say because I don't know where it's going to be distributed or how it's going to be done. But this new one's a 30-minute film. It's not a feature.
Oh, okay, it's a short. Right.
But there's going to be ideally a feature kind of based on the concept.
Mm-hmm. And these things can become a feature film if they're picked up.
Yeah.
That's really, it's almost like a script treatment in the film.
Yeah. Well, no,
form.
this short is a very powerful, complete story.
It's a complete story. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Very
I mean,
good.
it's very, very controversial subject matter, but it's.
You certainly have courage in,
Yeah.
in all the things that you do, and that's also.
Hey, take risks in life, otherwise
You've
it's no
got to.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always measure risk versus reward.
Right.
So, I'm good at figuring out where to do that.
Well, it certainly worked for you so far.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on and sharing all of your heartfelt feelings about the business and about your acting career. Thank you for involving me in some of the stuff that we've done.
It's always been great.
If we can do it again, I'd love it.
We
Putting
will.
it out there to the world. And thank you for coming on. And
Thank you
thanks
for having
everybody.
me.
It's good to see you.
You too.